Good morning and welcome to our web. Sorry, let me just start that over again. Good morning and welcome to our reports webinar for today. I will be covering all the most basic reports and maybe a few others that we might need in a practice. And the idea of today is to show you the report functions and the reports you might need in your practice. And I will guide you through the whole process of how do we set up those reports and how do you look at all the functionalities and what you can get out of the reports in GoodX. So reporting is so important to make sure that you understand what you need and where to get it out of your system. All systems will have their unique reports. All systems will have specific reports. GoodX reports are specifically developed that you can customize your own reports and save it to your needs. But in order to save it, you need to understand what you are looking at and how you need to generate that report. So today I'm going to cover in that sense then all the setup of those reports, how we set up those parameters, how we set up all the necessary ticks, and how we do the sorting and the filtering and the advanced functions around that. But I will be covering the most basic reports that we usually do in our training sessions, but also look at a few others as well as needed. The session will typically be an hour, maybe a bit longer, shorter, and we will see how it goes. And the whole day we're planning about a 3-hour session, so we will break it down in basically 4 or 5 sections. And you're more than welcome to look at that sections later as you might require it. So first I'm going to start to show you our learning center before I even go into access the actual reports in the system. And you need to understand then from the learning center how you can access the training manual under reports so that you can enable yourself and empower yourself to actually go and draw that report as you might need it. If you're coming over from another system or you're new in the system, the idea of these manuals are trying to help you and guide you where in GoodX you can find that specific report that you need. There are reports that you need to draw on a daily basis. There are reports you will be drawing on a weekly basis. There's reports you will draw on a monthly basis. There's reports that you will draw only for your doctor or the practice manager, depending who's in charge of those specific sections or parts. I need to look into that. Or you will be drawing reports for the auditors in the end of the month or in the end of the year. So the idea of these reports and training manuals is to show you how you can enable yourself to set up your reports. GoodX are installed with a base set of reports, but the idea is it's a click and then you get your information. If you don't understand that information, you will always get to a point where the auditors might tell you that there's something wrong with your figures, and you will contact your system and GoodX then and ask what is going on. So please make sure you understand and try to follow us on how we're going through this report. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the Learning Center. So please make sure that you can log on to learning.goodx.co.za. You will get a username and password. If you're already a GoodX client, please make sure you get that login details from your FCL. Your FCL is your first client liaison. For those who do not know about that, please make sure you get that. Get your GoodX number, phone them, mail it to help@goodx.co.za so they can send you the Learning Center details so you have access to that reports. Okay, so once you've logged into the learning.goodx.co.za, you will see your Learning Center, manuals and best practice guidelines. There's 2 specific manuals I'm going to show you today. It's the reports one here at the back of this shelf. If you look at this, the blue book here that says reports, and we're going to look also at the guideline, and just to give you an indication of what you need to look there as well. But the focus is going to be on this report manual and this side. I'm not going to be the whole day on it. I'm just going to reflect quickly to it. You're more than welcome to look at it, print it out, and go through that training on your own, and then obviously use these webinars in conjunction with these report manual to help you sort out what you need. If necessary, then phone your FCL to make appointments so we can look at how we can help you to assist you with your reports. There will be certain specific reports that is very specific or very advanced. If you're looking for something specifically, ask your FCL to help you set up that report then, and make sure you understand how they set it up. So if something happens to your reports in the sense of a backup must be reloaded or something in that sense, and you lose that saved report, you can set it up on your own. And sometimes as well, with new updates in the system, some of those reports can actually get outdated, and there might be new ticks and functionalities in that report. So please keep yourself up to date as well as far as you can with that report settings in the end of the day. So I'm going to show you the report manual just quickly. Desktop app report, so that's our RDP cloud system. And the reason why I'm looking at this page is just to show you that we are going to look at the implementing and following of best practice processes, the drawing of the relevant reports, analyzing and interpreting the necessary report, and then actually responding on that report. So the idea of today is just to try and show you that, okay, so what is the purpose of the report? Why do I need it? And then how do I set up that specific report? So where do I need to go? What do I need to tick to get the information that I need? And then how and where can I generate that report? Is this from the diary? Is this MEDEPS? Is this creditors? Is this financial? Is it stock? So you need to understand where you need to generate that report for what you need. And then obviously you need to understand what you're reading on that report. How do I read it? How do I interpret that information on that report? And that is what is important as well. It's very easy to generate a report of the system, but when you look at the columns, you have no idea what it's actually saying to you. So please make sure also you try and understand if you are drawing a report for a doctor or an auditor or a practice manager, that you also understand and make sure that your practice manager or your doctor understand, or the treating provider, what they are looking at the end of the day. And because GoodX's reports are so much customizable, there's so many different ways you can set up that report to get to a specific answer. So please make sure that you see and understand that. Now, if you look at this reports manual, we look at here our healthcare management internal controls. We usually look at daily section, we look at a weekly internal control and a monthly section, a bi-monthly, quarterly, and a yearly. Today, for this purpose of the reports, we're only going to cover our debtor report, so that's basically for our patients. And we're going to focus on a few specific reports, and we're going to try and see if we can get you to understand how the basic structure works of the GoodX reports, how it's set up, how it's maintained, and then how you generate a report and how do you read that report. So the ones we're going to focus on today, as you can see here, it's what we call the drill down. And we're going to look at all these 9 reports in that drill down, and we're going to look at an age analysis, and we look at a code stats report and an ICD-10 stats report. And that will be provided in the few sections. The first section now, we're going to cover this data transaction drill down or Daybook Report. In the next section, we're going to cover the age analysis, the next one, the code stats, and then the ICD-10 stats. But the last 2 reports will be quick, because then we understand what we're looking at and how to set it up, so we just look at the results at the end of the day. Okay, so the reports, as you can see on this manual, you can go into this, and when you click on it, it will open up a next section, and here you will actually see where you need to go to print this report, where you need to click and proceed with that report, and it will show you the necessary options that might be available and to help you set up that report, and we try and explain to you what you see and how you need to react to it. So the ideas today is to show you now how I'm going to set up one of these reports. I'm going to take you through all those parameters, make sure you understand what a tick means and what my result will be in the end of the day. Then we're going to look at the report, and once I've opened up the report in GoodX, and that's the powerful thing about the GoodX report structures, is it's as we call it, a drill down or a grid view, if I can use the terms. It looks like a lot like Excel, and from there you can still manage a lot of your report information before you finalize it by printing it or mailing it to someone that is or wants that specific report. So I'm going to start now with what we call the data transaction drill down, as we call it, or the Daybook Report. So what is this report for, and what is the purpose of it? In the end of the day, this is my daily checks, even my weekly and my monthly checks. That's my reports that I would draw here every day. So this is a typical report we will find here is my turnover, all my deposits, all my journals, and all my transactions that was generated in the report up to today. You will look at your reports on a daily basis. You can look at it on a weekly or a monthly basis or on a year basis. The idea is that the data transaction drill down tells us it's all the transactions that happens on my debtors. In other words, in our terms, in the medical, into our patients. So this will be your main report, and that's why this is the only one that we're going to cover today with our age analysis and our codes and ICD-10s, because we're looking at our patients and in our main system. This is where we get our money from. This is where our billing is taking place. So I want to make sure that every day I can draw a report to see all my debtors, all my invoices, in other words, all my codes that was billed, all my ICD-10s that was billed. I want to see all my receipts that came in, all my deposits, either cash or card or EFT, depending on how it was captured, even the ERAs or remittances from the medical aids. So you want to have access to all that information. So at the end of the day, I can quickly draw a report for my doctor to see all the codes that he's billed for the day, to see his turnover. I want to see the cash flow for the day. I want to see all the journals I've done, so all the bad debt, the discounts, the write-offs that I might have done up till now. So the idea here is to make sure that you understand that there is so many things I can get out of the system in a report, and a nice saying we have in GoodX, everything you can get in a report. And that's almost true for most of the functions and transactions and actions you do in the GoodX system. You most probably will be able to extract it with a report out of GoodX. And you will see also all our reports you can email, and all our reports can be exported to CSV or Excel. So that makes your report functionality is also very powerful to send it to your auditors that might use Pastel or something like that, so they can import it into their systems. Okay, so the daily reports or the transaction drill down, as we call it in that sense, is one of our major report functions. This can be drawn on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis. This depends on what your needs might be. So I'm going to focus again on why we do those reports, and how do you generate those reports, and how do you interpret those reports. Also on this report training manual, we'll see there's an index of reports, and there you will see a list of all the reports in the GoodX system. Hopefully by going through this, you will have a way of picking up the report that you require and will meet your needs. So please look at this manual and look at that index of reports. It's a very handy tool to determine if the things that I'm looking for is in GoodX and where can I get it in the GoodX system. So please look at that index. Reports terminology, this is also important to make sure that you understand in GoodX how, if we talk about a date, we talk about a transaction date, a capture date, and a period. What is the difference between these? Why is that important? And I will focus on this again, and this is very crucial to make sure that if I draw my reports on a period base, then all my reports must be on a period base, unless I'm generating something for the doctor or the treating provider that's specifically on a date base. I cannot draw today a transaction date report and tomorrow a capture date report and then a period report and send them to auditors, because they will not balance. Please ensure that you understand this. Go through this terminology. I will explain this again as I get to the reports, why this is important. Make sure you understand it. And then also we cover then, when I look at the reports, our filters, our sorting, our groupies, and the settings and the parameters. So this is what I will do to show you how I set up a report, so you understand all these terminologies, as we call it, all the functionalities that you might find in that report, so that you can empower yourself to generate the right report that you need in the end of the day. If you have difficulty understanding the reports in any other way, please go through this webinar again, go through the training manual. If you still can't get to that level, then ask your FCL to assist you where they can. Okay, so let's look at the other report I just also quickly want to focus on. Before I go on to that, when I go into my main learning center, you will see your guidelines. From the guidelines, you will have your GoodX best practice guidelines. That's our typical day-to-day functionality for the practice. And then you will have your healthcare management internal controls. Now, this is a very, very handy tool for our practice managers and doctors. If you want to check what is happening on a daily, weekly, yearly, monthly, quarterly base, this is the manual you need to go through. Please go through it. It gives you a lot of information, and we discuss the reports, the year ends, the backups, everything you need additionally for your practice. But this is not the training we're going to cover today. This we will cover in another webinar session in the future. Please sign up for that, because that will be a very, very important course that you need to go through. Okay, so for now, I'm going to focus again on the reports, and I'm going to switch now to an actual GoodX desktop app, so that I can show you the actual reports and how we access that reports, and how you can see it in different scenarios, in the sense of different modules, and like I said in the beginning, and what the different reports you might want to draw from your debtors to your creditors to your stock to your financial. Remember, GoodX is a financial system in the background, so we can run your whole practice in that sense. What you put in is what you get out. If you only work with your patients, doing the billing, the credit notes, the journals, the receipts, that's the only thing you will get out of the system. If you do your stock and your creditors, that you will then obviously have access with your reports in as you go along. But obviously with reports, I can see everything that I've built against the patients, from codes to stock to NAPI codes, and you can have analyzing, and you can draw reports and view that specific reports. So now let's go to our system. I just quickly want to load it up here. There we go. Okay, so you will have your cloud connection, as we call it, your RDP, to have access to your desktop app. So here you need to log on to GoodX with your username and passwords, and also remember, access control will give you the right to go to certain modules to access certain functions, and also for the reports. So remember that we can assign access to even can draw reports and may not draw reports, and also who will be enabled to edit those reports, even delete those reports. So please make sure that you understand also that access control is also important for reports, and who needs access to what information. Because reports obviously will give you anything from your turnover to your cash flow, to your journals, to age analysis, to any other outstanding amounts in the system. So it's important to make sure that you have the right people that have access to those reports. Now I'm going to cover it for today again, like I said, just a few basic reports, and we will cover the more advanced reports maybe in the next webinar session. So let's see from there what we are going to do about the report. So the two places you will most probably access your reports in the future will be your MEDEPS. MEDEPS is our main module, as we call it, the medical debtors. So from here you will have access to the main reports, and then your financial reports will be the other reports in the system, from anything from debtors, creditors, stock to the financial reports. But a lot of the advanced debtors reports you will find under that financial reports. So please make sure also that you can access either one of them, and please make sure whoever's got access is set up in the GoodX access controls to access those specific reports. Okay, so now we go to MEDEPS. I'm going to start with that one because that's the one that most of our clients will be using and will have access to. And I'm going to double click on that one. I'm just going to put in my copy user. Okay, so once the module is opened up, we will go to print, and here's our statements and messages and data report writer. So that's a very handy report also for all my patient demographic information, from addresses to telephone numbers to email addresses, patient information. That's a very handy data list, patient list that you can generate out of the system, and almost anything you put in you can get out of that in that sense. So look at that if you need it. If you need for some reason a data list, a list of all your patients with telephone numbers or email addresses on it, you will use the data patient report writer. The one I'm going to focus on today, or the two base reports I want to at least focus on this function here, is my data transaction Drilldown or my Daybook, and my age analysis. Because there's two reports here that must be generated on a monthly basis for the practice, for the owners, for the doctors, whoever's the owner of the practice, and also for the auditors. And that is what we call the movement summary, or in other words, you will most probably know it as the turnover report, and then also the age analysis. Every month end there must be a movement summary, there must be an age analysis generated out of any system. Doesn't matter whether you use GoodX, Alexa, Medimaz, it does not matter. You need an age analysis at every month end. You need a movement summary or your turnover report at every month end. Please make sure you understand that I will get my movement summary under my data transaction drill down, and I need to generate my age analysis on a monthly basis. So please look at that internal controls book of ours that will guide you to what you need to print when, and also look at our reports manual in order to make sure you understand what you need to look at. So my data transactions drill down, so let's look at this one. I'm going to spend a lot of time in the parameters and settings of this report, because once you understand how GoodX works with their reports, from here it's easy to apply these settings to any of the other reports in GoodX. So that's why I'm saying my last 3 sections will go quickly when I do those basic reports, but this one will take a bit of a time because you need to understand what a ticks means, and I will obviously focus on the reports, also on other ticks, but to make sure that you understand what they mean, and then the later reports will actually make more sense when you get to it. So data transaction drill down Daybook. So what does this mean? This is a 9 reports in one function. So when you run your data transaction drill down, you will not get just 1 report, you will get 9 of them, all in one report, divided into 9 sections, and you can decide which one you want to generate and print. Also, when we use the setup correctly, you can actually save one of those reports specifically for someone like a receptionist or an admin coordinator or a credit controller that needs to print something specifically out of the system, and you can actually save it that they can only have access to that specific detail that you require at the end of the day. So data transactions drill down is also showing me everything that happened under patients, under debtors as we call it. All the transactions that was generated in a specific time frame. So that's why with transactions drill down, so that's also what we mean, it's basically an audit. So it means you can see all the transactions, and Daybook tells us just basically it's a daily report, so you can generate on a daily basis for all the codes that was generated. So this is also a typical report that we will print in the end of the day to see what was the doctor's turnover. We're going to see what was the cash flow for the practice for the day, what was the journals, the bad data discount that was done in the GoodX system for that day. We can draw this on a monthly basis to see what's the total turnover, cash flow, and journals. So what's the total movement of the practice. So as you can see here, yes, there's a few saved reports already per date, per month end, per transaction date, a weekly revenue, movement summary, month end, and that specific one that we want to generate every month. Daily receipts and a daily report per doctor. So the idea with these reports is you can print it per doctor, per service center, per medical aid. You can print it in a week frame, on a day frame, on a monthly time frame. So please make sure you understand what you require. Do I want to see all the codes that was billed for a specific date? Then the transaction drill down a Daybook function is the one you will be using. If I want to see all the deposits that came in for a specific day, this is the tool that you will be using. All the journals, all the credit notes, all the receipts, all the medical aid receipts, all the credit card receipts. This is the report that will give you that information. So almost all this detail you will find under the data transaction drill down report. The age analysis is the one that shows you what is still outstanding for 30, 60, 90, 120 days. So please make sure that you always print those reports, and you will hear me say that a lot, because that is so important to make sure that you understand what reports you need to draw at the end of the day. If you're a practice and you work on a daily report that you must generate the salaries for your locums, or your oral hygienist, or your technicians, whoever is using the system. This is also a report you will generate on a code level to see how many codes were charged by that practitioner or that treating provider. So I can generate a report to calculate their salaries on a commission base or not, depending on how you operate in the practice. So I'm going to start with explaining there's a blank. The blank report is the report that cannot be saved, in other words. So if I click on the blank report, it means I'm going to set up a report, generate it, print it, and it will immediately lose its settings. That's basically what the blank means. You cannot save that report. It's solely there so you can quickly access the information on a quick edit sequence, so you can edit the settings parameters to your will and generate a report, and print it or view it, whatever you need. Once you've closed that report, it will not be saved. Okay, so the no name, it's just a report that was loaded. This one can actually be edited and saved as another report, but typically that's just a report that you can use to play around with, change the settings, see how it looks like, save it again, and generate again. On the right hand side, you will see a few buttons. So I will just explain, this is the base on how GoodX reports work in GoodX. So you will always, when you click on print, get a pop-up like this. It says current profile. So this is saved for your user in that sense, if it's set up on that level. And you will see always a blank. You will always see a name, no name when you start a new report in GoodX. And typically you will not find any of these reports currently listed. But we do install these base reports for you on an installation. So you will see a few reports there that's loaded with our template on installation. You at any time can edit one of those reports if you have the access. At any time you can delete one of those reports if you have the access. And at any time you can create your own report, a new report from here. And the idea of today's training is to enable you to create your own reports. So that's where you would go and click on new to edit and create a new report for yourself. You give it your own unique name, so you can put your name behind it, month end, weekly, whatever you would like to call it, and that report is then saved and you can access it at any time from there. Print direct, print to grid. Print direct means once you've set up that report, you've given it a name like weekly revenue. When you say print direct, it will go directly to our HTML format already ready to be printed. But when you click on print to grid, it will first take you to an Excel tool environment, if I can use the word, where you can still filter report, group the report, and apply filters to that report so that you can pinpoint more the information that you require and extract it out of the system from there. And then the print to grid is very important that from there you can still have access to all that information. Okay, and then set as default means when I come into here, if I say default, that report will be the base report that you need to access. So every time you open up the print button, you will always be on that report. That's what the set as default will mean. And the options will rename your report, save your report, so basically make a copy of that report by giving it another name, and then you will have the unset current default where you did set the default, you can now unset the current default. So please make sure you understand the buttons here on the right hand side, but this is how you're going to work with this report and how you set them up. And here you can add your own reports, edit your reports, delete your reports, print to grid, so you can still have functionality to change your information before you actually print or email it. And then if there's a report that you use every day, you can set that as your set as default. And then every time GoodX comes in, it will open up that report. Okay, so now let's look at this data transaction drill down or daily report, as we call it, parameters or settings. So how do I access these settings? If I click on any of these reports, I can click on edit, or you can click on blank and you can click on edit. And then once you click on edit, it will open up your parameters screen, your settings screen, as we call it. And you will see there at the top, we call this report parameters. Then we look at the time span. And we look here at the date, we look at your transactions to print with a few ticks here on the right hand side. We look at the sorting, the grouping values, the datas, the report order, and the invoices types to print. So a lot of reports in GoodX will have these settings. So you need to understand how you need to access these settings and how to tick it and untick it as you require the information. The first thing that I'm going to focus on is then the time span. The time span will tell us what is the time frame the report must be drawn on. Will this be on a transaction date, a capture date, on a weekly basis, on an all date basis, or in other words, a period basis? So what do we mean by transaction date? Again, go to the manual if you make sure you understand also what we mean between the different dates. Transaction date is the date of service. That's when the patient was treated at your facility or practice. So that was the date the patient was there. So the report will only focus down on the date of the transaction, when the transaction was generated for that patient service. So in other words, also the date the claim should most probably go through to the medical aid. Then we look at our capture date. So what is our capture date? It's a date when you have done the work. So this is a typical environment where you're a bureau or a specialist where you bill for the weekends, hospital visits or theatre. So on Monday you bill for Saturday or Friday. So capture date is today, but your transaction date was last week when the patient was treated. Then the all dates is the important one. This is the financial date, as we call it. It's the financial period. This is the period wherein the report must take place, or the month in the transactions will take place. So if you run on a month-end system, you will always work on a period report system. Then from there, make sure that you understand between a capture date, between a transaction date, and then even a week basis. The period is very important. Once you decide here on reports for your monthly figures, you must keep it on the same level. If you're not on a monthly system, then you might work with capture date or transaction date for what the possible reason for that might be. But you should be on a monthly month-end system. So your report should start with a period, and always print your reports on a period level. So you start your report on period 1 or 2 or 3 or 5, period 1 to 12, starting at March, ending in February, and the period report should always be printed on that level. Just give me a quick second here. I just want to enable one of my live chats. I see it's not showing on my side. I just want to see if there's something I need to focus on. Okay, so let's go from there. I think that's sorted. Okay, so the periods are very important. Make sure you understand how that period works. If you're not sure, please go through our manuals. Make sure from your FCL you understand it. If you should print your reports on a period level for your auditors. Once you generate a report in your system and you've done your month end, the figures cannot change back. So make sure that your report is generated on a period. You print an age analysis, must be on period. You print your daybook, debtors, your invoices outstanding, your journals. It does not matter. If you print reports, then it should all be on a period level if it goes to your auditors or it goes to your practitioner at the end of the day. You can obviously generate reports on a transactional capture date depending on the needs. And that's typically what we say our day list for the doctor to check their billing. So then I will work on a transaction date report. Capture dates is typically in a bureau where I want to see what was the work that I've done on that date, to see what the people have billed, or my admin coordinators or my credit controllers, the work they have done on a specific date. And that will be nice to look at capture date for that specific reasons. Okay, so please make sure you understand then that periods, if I click on it, there will be a period 1 to period 12. So if I want to look at May's transaction, I should select May in order, and that is period 3, starting in the 1st of May, ending the 31st of May. So make sure you select the right month, the report will be drawn in. But also very important is the here. Please, we are a financial system, so we talk about a 2020 book year. A lot of people don't understand what we mean by saying 2020. It feels like we're talking about the future. Remember, your financial year in the auditing world starts at the 1st of March 2019 and ends at 28 or 29 of February 2020. So that's why we talk about a 2020 year. So that's why it's a good option to always tick that says default date or period, so that you do not print reports for 2019 or 2018. That's 2 years back, and your auditors will not make sense of the figures. Please make sure that tick is on. You're on 2020, and to select the correct month you're in. I'm going to select May, and I want to draw the whole month for May as a report in GoodX. So that's why I've got it in all dates. And now I go and see, okay, transactions to print. What do I need to tick here? Debtor turnover. So what is our turnover in GoodX? Turnover is all the invoices you've generated minus all your credit notes. As you can see, there's journals here at the bottom, so we do not use journals to correct any billing. We only use credit notes to correct the billing. So that's why when I look at a turnover in our GoodX system, a turnover is your invoices minus your credit note. So that's always the turnover that you will see. What is my cash books? That's my cash flow, in other words. So that's all my cash coming in from reception, all my credit cards, all my EFTs, and all my ERAs coming into my bank account. So all the cash and cards and debtor cards that's coming into my bank account with all their corrections. So when I do a deposit, there's a deposit correction. When I do refunds, there's also a refund correction. Remember, refunds is part of your cash flow in the end of the day. And then we get journals. Journals is only being used to write off small amount bad debt or handovers. You will never use a journal in GoodX to do any corrections. Journals is always showed separately for the auditors because that's the money that you willingly are writing off, the money that you're willingly or unwillingly losing to a certain level depending on what is happening. Small amounts from the medical aid, say short paying, write-offs. Patients that do not want to pay, bad debt, handovers. That's why we look at journals. And then next to that is our grouping, as we call it. So here I can group my reports per treating doctor. So here I can see all the 5 doctors. And we will show the turnover and cash flow and journals to those different doctors in your practice, to the different medical aids, to the different referral doctors into even the different service centers. Also, you can tick all of them at the same time or 2 or 3 options at the same time. So I want to see per service center, so what is done in the rooms and 3 different hospitals, but also per doctors in those rooms and hospitals. So please make sure that you know that the treating doctor and the service centers, what they mean and what you want to see. If you do not tick those, we will group all of those figures into one turnover, cash flow, or journal total. The grouping here, the bottom, all grouping or select grouping, is a direct effect on what you've selected here at the top. So if I select per treating doctor, the select grouping will give me the option to actually select out of the 5 doctors, 1 or 2 or 3 or all 5. Where the all groupings will just assume it will take all the doctors or all the service centers already on your lists and just group it according to those service centers. Okay, so please make sure that you understand that that grouping that I select, I must also decide how the grouping must take place. Do I need to say all groupings or do I need to say select specific groupings? So I want to filter out maybe 1 specific doctor out of 5 or 10 or treating provider. So please make sure you understand then that groupings have a direct impact on what I select there. Automatic drill down, display VAT on journals on drill down, and journal action breakdown. This is ticks that will help me just show more advanced detail. So when I go into my ledger, as we call it, for my debtor, my opening balance and closing balance, for my debtor control, as we call it, and I will explain maybe a bit later in detail, but that's not too important for now. It will actually drill down, as we call it. In other words, show the audit, show all the transactions automatically. So this tick I will only remove from a very big practice and it takes too long to draw reports, and I want to just get to the summarized version of the reports. Then I will untick the automatic drill down just to get to the ledger movement summary or specific reports. If I tick that on, it will automatically assume that it must generate that detail, and it will take a bit longer to generate that specific detail. Okay, and then also display the VAT for the journals on a drill down. Must be show the calculation of the inclusive, exclusive, and VAT amount, yes or no, and journal action breakdown as well. It will show you the actual journal actions that was used, yes or no. Preferably, these ticks should always be on. Invoices types to print, they're at the top. Just leave them on at this moment. There's specific reports or information that's generated out of this. The only thing I want to maybe mention out of here, all the things on a medical aid here is all the normal billing that will go through to the medical aid, and everything that's under private ticks is once you've billed the patient and you marked it as private, so the private will only print the /X's as we call it. If you want more detail on this, check our manual, and otherwise consult our FCLs to inform. But otherwise, just leave those ticks on at this moment. It will, once I show the reports, I can come back maybe a bit later to this and explain it a bit more. So the grouping, and then I've got grouping values here. If applicable, as per transaction level, recommended. Please keep this on at all times. Do not switch it to as per debtor data. It means every time you do billing in GoodX, we capture who's the treating doctor, what is the service center, who's the referral doctor, so that when we draw reports here, we know on each and every transaction which medical aid was involved, which plan, which doctor, and we look at it on a transaction level. So we do not look at your file. If the file was opened up on Dr. B, but Dr. A treated the patient, the report will show the treatment was done by Dr. A, not Dr. B. If you put it on the data, it will always show you what is the doctor on the file, and it will ignore the actual different treating doctors that was on the patient directly. And that will not show you the correct values unless specifically needed. And then here at the bottom is my sorting order, as we call it. So how must the system sort the reports, typically alphabetically, numerically, or by file number. So I usually have it on alphabetical. And then we have our debtors that says, okay, what debtors must be part of this report. Typically all, but you can actually generate a list of debtors or a single debtor or a choose debtor, but that will really be for specific reporting. So please make sure it's on all, it's on alphabetically, per transaction level, recommended, and then depending on what you select on your grouping level, treating doctor, medical aid, referral doctor, service center, you can select either all grouping or select grouping. All these ticks typically should be on unless you've got a very big database of transactions, then I would switch off maybe the automatic drill down. All these transactions should be also on the left hand side unless you only want to focus on the cash, for instance. Then you generate a report only for the cash. If you only want to focus on the journals, the same way, untick them, only select journals, and only the invoices and credit notes, then just check the turnover. But to make this report more effective, we recommend that you keep all those ticks also on. Then you would definitely just change your period, in the sense of the May, change your month, select your doctors or medical aids or referral service centers, decide on your grouping, and then I would go to next to generate the necessary report. So the moment I click on next, it will pop up usually with a next screen, just confirming, because when we save a report, we always want to give you access to certain options that when you generate a report, you want to maybe print in a different month or a different date. So we always will bring up this little box to just guide you to the right time frame you want to print this, and then I click on next. So please make sure you double check this, select your starting month, select your closing month, and then generate the report accordingly. Then I click on next. So now I'm going to show you the 9 different reports quickly, what they more or less mean, and explain to you how we change and edit the screens so you can get the most out of the system, so that you can see what I can focus on, when I can focus on it, how can I group it, how can I filter it, and how can I sort my screen to see the information that I need. Okay, there it is, it opened up. So I just maximize my screen. Also, when you look at your report screen, if you want to view it on screen, when you say print to grid, make sure you also maximize it, that it shows you the full screen. It's just more easier to read. And as you can see, it's now, we were part of the report parameters. We're now under generated report. And as you can see, I can just quickly go back to report parameters, change maybe a new tick, click on next, and regenerate the report. So I don't need to exit out of it in total and try it again, but in edit mode I can do this. But once I save the report, I need to close it and generate it again. So now I've got my 9 reports here on the top left side. I've got my ledger, my audit trail invoice details, my movement summary, my invoices summary per billing code, my invoices summary per ICD-10, my deposits, and my journal ledger summary. So out of these 9 reports, you should get almost all information on your patients required except for the age analysis. The age analysis is a report on its own, and like I said in the beginning, that is the second report that you must print every month. Okay, but it's a Daybook, and that's why we call it also Daybook. Transactions Drilldown is on a daily, weekly, monthly basis depending on your needs. We usually start with the ledger, and so we will move down. But the one you need to make note of is the movement summary, report number 4. The movement summary must be generated every month with the age analysis. So out of the data transaction drill down daybook function, this report must be generated every month for the doctor, for the practice, and for the auditors. This tells you what's going on in your practice. What is my turnover? What is my cash flow? What's my journals for that month? Out of this, any auditor can generate financial figures from this report. And a doctor can also see how is turnover going, and more or less also what the VAT will be payable at the end of the month if he's not using the rest of the financial system. Okay, so the ledgers, it's what we call our debtors control. This is a nice summarized version of what's going on your patients. It starts with the opening balance, so what was the closing balance of last month. It starts with the invoices, what is the total that I've billed, my charges, my billing, my codes that I've loaded, what is the credit notes in total. Auditor and doctor wants to see this because this is the billing mistakes that you correct. If you billed incorrectly, this is where you corrected that billing. Then you have your cash receipts, your card receipts, and your electronic receipts. So what is the cash that came in at reception? What was all the card payments that took place? And what came in EFT-wise, either patient or medical aid via RAs or remittances. And then there's my deposit corrections on the cash or cards. So there I can see exactly what was corrected by receipt, what was done incorrectly. And then what was your journals that was done, and what was specifically my settlement discount that was done. So now that's why the drill down ticks was on. Remember the tick that I said in the beginning that will make the system slow if there's a lot of detail. The show automatic drill down, these ticks are on because it will generate the automatic drill down, and that's it. Okay, so the idea is now to say, okay, there's my ledger, there's my audit trail, there's my audit trail invoice details, there's my movement summary, invoice summary per billing code, invoice summary per ICD-10 code, user activity, deposits, and journals. So just quickly run through this. I've shown you how the ledgers. This is the base of your system, and then your movement summary is what you must print every month. So this is my turnover now. So this is more a breakdown from the ledger. So that's my invoices and my credit notes is my turnover. So my ledger or my deposits and corrections, that is my cash flow. And from my ledger, all my journals will be under my journals. This is where the doctor can see what has been generated every month from his billing, what has been loaded, what is the cash flow, the money that came in, and what was willingly or unwillingly written off in the system by journals. Showing you a total balance here at the bottom, balancing back to your H analysis. And that tick should always be on. It must not be a red X. The moment it reads X, you must immediately contact GoodX. Then something is wrong with your figures and we need to look at your system. It should always balance out with your H analysis. So the movement summary must be generated every month as quickly with your H analysis the moment you do month end. The audit trail and audit trail invoice details, that is, as it says, the audit trail is all the detail of those transactions. That turnover, that cash flow, that journals is now here being shown in detail. And this is what we saw with the automatic drill down tick. This will drill down all those information out to every transaction that has taken place in that time frame that's making up your totals. So from here you can see a lot of information. You will see there's a drill down at the top. So there's my journals, my credit notes, my invoices, and this is the filters that we talked about. Every column that you see here will have a little arrow, and that is an option where I can filter certain information out of the system. So here I will be able now to say filter out a specific patient by going to the account and select data number 22. Then click on all again to remove the filter. And as you can see, every section will have a plus, and if you click on the plus, it will open up that section so you can see the details. So please make sure you understand how this works. So this is the filter where I can just quickly decide, just show me the invoices. And you can just view your invoices. Show you me all the credit notes, and you can just print out that credit notes, because as you apply the filter, your print and your export here at the bottom will generate that information according to the filter. Also, you can sort per date. So if you see here's my transaction date, the moment I click on that transaction date, there's a little arrow that appears there, up or down, and that shows you the order level of how it's sorted from A to Z or from Z to A. So at any time you can filter this report on specific text, you can sort this report on any text, and you can rearrange the columns. So if you want account number to be in the front, then you move it to the front. If you want description to be second, you move it to the second space. So you have control over the screen. Move it in the order you want it. Because when I generate a new report, we can save these settings. We save your sorting, and we can save the order, and we can save the grouping. And then you can just generate a report according to that information. For instance, now here's my treating doctor. I did not select the grouping in the beginning. Now I want to see my different doctors. I can actually here just sort them, and then it will sort your different doctors together, Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Neiman, Dr. GP, or I can just filter out Dr. GP, or I can drag it to the top and group it on Dr. So now I can see exactly on my doctors, and then just say all again, how much was done by Dr. GP. Now I can see his journals, his invoices, his deposits, everything that happened on that doctor. So this is a perfect report to see detail on a site with more than one doctor, where I want to see the different turnovers or information that was built and captured in that specific time frame for these doctors. So please make sure you understand that this is what we called again in the manual about our terminologies, the beginning of that reports manual. How do I filter? How do I sort? How do I group my report so I can get the information that I want on these reports? So please look at that information, look at this webinar later again, and how I do this. You can just move your columns around, you can bring them down again to mark them part of the main report, you can sort them, and you can filter them according to your needs. Look at your screen, look to the right with the scroll bar, move your columns the way you would like it, and then you can save that report as you require them. Invoice details. This is very specific on codes. It's the invoices, all the billing you have done. And now we looked at the audit trail was all the invoices and the credit notes. But here I can see the actual patient and codes and ICD-10 codes that was used in these reports. So look at this. Again, filters here are very important, because here I can now filter out my hospital visits, 0109. So immediately you can filter out that specific codes. This is a very handy way of generating that report that I talked about for the salary calculations for your locums or for other doctors that works on a specific commission base in the practice. At any time here at the bottom, you will see the filter has been applied, code equals 0109, and I can just X that by clicking on that X, and I can delete that filter, and all my transactions will show again as well. If I applied also a filter at the top, remember also it will show a little, the arrow becomes blue, you can just click on it again and just click on all again. So any of these reports work on the same principle depending on what I need. Filter it, group them, sort them, and change the columns in any order you require. So my ledger is just a grouping of all my invoices and my credit notes and my deposits, my cash flow and my journals. My audit trail shows me all those details, so I can actually see on which patients did it take place. The invoice details shows me the code level and ICD-10 code level per patient, per code, per amount. So please look at this if you want very specific billing reports for my dailies, for my dentists, for my oral hygienists, for any other doctors, to check their billing so that I can determine their turnover in the end of the day, if they've billed correctly and will their claims be correct. So my movement summary we looked at already. So my movement summary is one of my must print one of the month. That's my turnover report. It shows me my total turnover, and here we break it down per income. So what is my material income, what is my professional fee income, and what is my medicine income. If you are dispensing GP, you will see those different levels. If you're just a normal only specialist, you will see typically invoices and consumables you might have used. Cash flow will show you your receipts, your cash books. So is it card, is it cash, is it electronically? And will show you also all the corrections on those transactions. And then it will show you the journals. If you want to see the detail of the journals, you go to the audit trail to view that detail. The general ledger summary at the bottom will show you a bit more information summary-wise on what it was assistancies, what was settlement discount, what was bad debt, and what would have VAT on those journals. Invoices summary per billing code. This is a very handy report to look at to see how many of different codes were billed in the system and what is the value of that code. So this is where I could easily go to 0109 and see, okay, it was billed 2 times and the total value was 353 minus a credit note on it. So that tells you also the plus and the minus of it. So this is a very handy tool to see how many times a code was issued in a time frame and what is the total value of that code. And here you can determine whether this procedure that you're actually doing is actually worthwhile in the end of the day of what you're charging for it privately or medical aid in the end of the day. And also this is a quick way to see where my biggest turnover is coming from out of my procedures. It's either theatre or procedures in the rooms. ICD-10 codes, same here. With the ICD-10 codes, I can pick up here how many of different ICD-10 codes were used in the system and also how many of that quantity of billing took place. This is a very handy tool report. There's more advanced ICD-10 codes report. I will get to a next section and code reports if I want to give report back either to the government or certain organizations depending on the speciality I'm on, like cleft patients or audiology, depending on theatre and what type of patients you are dealing with, and to help the government looking at certain outbreaks of certain illnesses in certain areas. You can quickly generate certain ICD-10 diagnosis codes and how many was charged or used in your system according to the billing structures. User activity, also very nice to see what user has done what in the system, from their deposits to journals to invoicing to credit notes. A very handy tool in a billing environment to check who's doing what on the system. Deposits, this is one of the main reports that will be generated on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis. Daily basis, we will use this with the code reports, with the audit trail invoice details. You most probably will also print a deposit report on a daily level to balance back your cash and your credit cards for the day back to your cash box, up to the point maybe even back to your petty cash. So the idea is to see how much cash that I received during the day. Did I write out all those receipts? That's when I end my day and I do my cash up, does it tally back to what is in my cash box back to my actual physical receipts? The same with on your card machine. A summary will be printed at the end of the day, and all your card payments must also balance back and slippies back to your cards and slips. So this is a manual cash up. If you do not use our cash register module, you will print out this deposit report on a daily basis to see what is happening at reception. How much cash am I receiving? How many credit card payments I'm receiving? Also look through this. You can sort it on a daily basis, group it, filter it, whatever you need here on this level. The general ledger summary again I showed you, and it will show you the different ledgers. Okay, so this is the drill down report. Like I said, the idea of this report is you generate it once and it generates 9 reports in one report. The main reports I want you to focus on here is the movement summary. You must print this on a monthly basis with your H analysis, because here is the H analysis total at the bottom. So this must balance back to the H analysis. These 2 reports must be printed on the same date, on the same time, as quickly as possible. So you must print your daybook, your movement summary, and then print your H analysis before any other transactions take place in the system. Once you've generated this report, everybody can go on with working again. Then you're balancing your reports, and that's it. The other report that's very important is the deposit report. This is an excellent tool to print this out, to reconcile your cash box on a daily basis, on a manual basis. Print this out to see how many cash that you receive in the system. It must balance back to your cash box, and also balance out your credit card receipts with the actual slips that you've got, and to the summary of the slip machine at the end of the day. So this is a very handy tool. And then obviously your summary billing code and your ICD-10 codes, very nice and handy tool on a monthly basis to do reports on that. If I want to generate reports for the doctors to see what they've billed, then I would use the order trail invoice details and filter here under doctor under codes. And this will give them a perfect report to see what they've billed on yesterday or today, to make sure they did not miss something. And I can also double check their billing to confirm that the ICTs are correct, the patients are correct, and the codes that should have been used have been posted correctly as well. So the movement summary, the deposits, and the order trail invoice details. Your invoices codes and your invoices ICD-10 codes. Please make sure that you understand these reports and what you need from them. From the screen here at the top, there's filters again, and apply base fit and expand all and expand also. Please look at that. So if you want to quickly save filters that you've loaded specifically, there is an option where you can save that filter, and every time you generate a report again, you must load that filter again. That will be specifically for specific codes and specific salaries for specific doctors. You would use the filters. If I'm not going into detail on saving that custom filter, I will maybe cover it in a later section. If you need information on how that filters work, look at our manual and also consult your FCL on that level. Okay, so that's the reports in that sense. The only thing I want to show you, just to make sure that once you set up a new report, give it a name. Daily transactions. So just a quick recap of what I've just said now. I click on OK, I select my tick and I select for May. And select your tick boxes, make sure everything is ticked. I don't want to put doctor, no, I'm happy with everything else. I click on next. Beautiful, select my month, say next. Because I'm generating now a new report, I will have a few extra buttons and I just want to cover them. Then I'm done with the base settings of how to set up a report, and then we'll just focus on the age and the code stats reports a bit later for the specific need of why you would draw this information. So once I create a new report or edit a report, I always have a button that will say save grid, load grid, reset grid, or save profile. So once I create a new report, the idea is here that you need to remember that once you change the order, the sorting, the grouping, you change your columns order, move columns around, forward or back. The moment I've done anything like that and I want to keep that, I click on save grid, override yes, and then I click on save profile. So now we save your settings, we save your sorting, we save your columns, and we save your grouping, and we save your sorting. So please make sure you save the grid and then save the profile. This is very handy if you want to generate the same report over and over, like a month-end report, like a daily list report. And then when you go to print, use the one here on the little arrow, because if I click on print, it will show all the reports, all the columns, and I don't want to see all the columns because if I print this, there will not be enough space to print. I will go to click on the button and I will go to print active view, choose columns. From here I can decide which columns I want to see. I can right click, uncheck all, but it will show this view in the order of how you sorted the columns. The first one, the second one, the third one. And as you tick it, the system will only print those specific columns. And again, if you save this now, on my save grid and profile, the system will remember those specific columns as well. So once I've generated a report, I close it. Now I save the grid again and I save my profile. Now GoodX will remember your choose column ticks from now on. So please make sure you understand that when you create a new report or when you edit a new report, you should change your settings, your parameters, tick boxes, per doctors, your sorting, your grouping, save the grid, go to print, choose the columns that you want to print, save the grid, and once you're done, you're happy with that report, then you save the report. Now that report will print on that same level every time. Please make sure that you just understand that if you set up a report like that and you just click on print and print and print, someone does not understand why they're printing this. So make sure that when you set up report, you know exactly how it's set up. It must be correct. The information must be ticked correctly, the parameters must be set up correctly, so that if you generate that report, that the same information will be generated every time. Of course, the biggest problem you will get is someone will just tick something or untick something and the report's totals will change. Do not print reports on a date or a capture date and then change between those. If you generate a monthly basis report, keep it on a period all dates. Do not print in reports for auditors on any other level unless specifically asked for. You can print date reports for doctors because they must check the billing that they've done for a specific date or any other treating provider. Please make sure you understand how that will work. Okay, so that I spend a lot of time now on this in that sense. Also, when you look at your report, make sure you understand the columns. So it's easy now to set up this report, but you need to understand what you're reading. So make sure that when I look at my audit trail, we talk about the description, the document numbers, the account number, the file numbers, the data, the description. Look at that information. Make sure what you see is what you want. If you feel you want to see a treating provider, doctor, referral doctor, move your columns accordingly. The service center, the specific reports will have specific information. We try and tell you the amount is excluding VAT inclusive. So look at the columns heading. If you're not too sure what it means, also try and contact your FCL and ask about it. Send your mail to help@GoodX so we can look into detail and maybe assist you in what you need more on your reports. The reports are very customizable, so tell us what you need and FCL might guide you in the right way how to set up the report. If you feel that the information is available, you see what you need, set up your own report, save it, and then generate your report there in the future on your own. If you do not want someone to access a report, please let us know about who needs access to the report so we can exclude them so they can do not edit or delete those reports in the end of the day. Okay, so that's for me the Daybook transactions drill down. It's almost now 10:15. I want to proceed with the next section then I think about 10:20. Or what time are we going to do this? 10:15. I will start with the next section, and that is the age analysis. So if there's any questions on these reports, please let us know in the chat or send a mail to your help@GoodX so that we can confirm if you understand the reports and if there's any questions on this. But with this Daybook, you should be able to access all your patient information from here. Detail-wise, summary-wise, weekly-wise, monthly, yearly-wise. But please make sure you get to your movement summary. That report must be printed with your age analysis. And then for our practices, that works a lot with card payments and cash, the deposit reports. The audit trail will always show you the detail what has happened in the practice. Per doctor, per service center, per code in the invoice details. There's a lot of information you can get out of GoodX. Please make sure you understand what you need. Play around with the reports. Create your own report, set it, edit it, print it, see if it's what you need. If you don't like it, delete it, try again. And that's the only way you will get the right report for your needs. Please make sure you save the grid, you save the profile, and save your ticks. Thank you very much. We will handle any other questions maybe a bit later. I will now move over to our next section, and that will be the age analysis. Thank you. See you in a few minutes. Bye-bye.